Right, so my name's Murph, and I'm from the Beefy Boys, and I'm going to show you 4 different patty styles. I'll give you a little bit of history really quickly about the Beefy Boys while I'm doing it as well. So I'm just going to cut a couple of buns while I'm chatting to you. So yeah, so basically, the Beefy Boys, we always say it's kind of like, it's a drunken barbecue that's seriously got out of hand. It's got so out of hand, we've now got 5 restaurants, 2 food trucks, and we've got a Sunday Times best-selling cookbook about our drunken barbecue. So it's got really, really out of hand. It's been a complete accident, the entire thing. None of us were trained chefs. None of us had a hospitality background or anything. In fact, 2 of us were DJs. One of us was a gas engineer, and then Christian worked as a runner for Culinary. So that was all sort of background. And basically about 14 years ago, my friend Dan, he called me up. We've known each other since school. And he gave me a bell and he said, Murph, you like eating? And I said, well, I do, yeah, very much. And he said, well, would you like to help me cook a barbecue? And I said, yeah, man, but if we're going to do it, let's not do a rubbish British barbecue, because let's be honest, about sort of 14, 15 years ago, British barbecues were generally crap. They're way better now, and pretty much almost everyone you meet now will have like a big green egg or some sort of barbecue at the bottom of their garden. But back then they were generally like, you know, a bit of burnt sausage, perhaps you get some undercooked chicken if you were lucky, and you get some terrible coleslaw someone had bought from Asda. But you know, that was the state of a British barbecue. So I said to Dan, because we've been watching a lot of TV programs called like Man vs Food, Diners, Drive-ins and Dives, that sort of stuff, and we'd seen all this amazing American like burgers and barbecue. So we were like, look, you know, if we're going to do this barbecue for our mates, let's cook that sort of stuff. So we jumped online, we did loads of research, we read loads of books, and we did a barbecue for our friends and family, and they were like, guys, this is amazing. You should do something with it. So to start with, we had a little broken barbecue that had been out in Dan's dad's back garden for, I mean, God, probably about 10 years. It was all covered in rust. And we'd go into sort of pubs and that on a Monday or Tuesday, and we'd use their beer garden, and we'd sell like 5 burgers to our mates, and we'd have a bit of a laugh, and that would be about it, right? So first of all, just while I'm waffling on, but it's your Beefy Boys, right? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to toast some buns, right? So bun-wise, for your burgers, you've got loads of different buns you can use for a burger, yeah? We like to use a semi-brioche. So it's not too sweet, right? It's a semi-brioche with a sourdough starter. We get this baked by a award-winning baker in Hereford called Peter Cook. But there's loads of bun options these days out there. Potato buns are fantastic. Pretzel buns are great. Whatever bun you want to use, the most important thing for me is it's got integrity and it's got strength, and it's not going to fall to pieces when you're eating it. Another little tip when you're doing burgers, right? Something that annoys me whenever I go somewhere and have a burger, if they don't toast their bun. I think it's like a fundamental aspect of a decent burger, because I always say that burgers are like Italian food, right? As long as you've got really, really good ingredients and you treat them with respect and you cook them properly, you'll end up with a good burger. If you start mucking around with it using frozen patties, frozen buns, it's not going to be great, yeah? So first thing I'm going to do, I've got some cooked bacon here. So that's bacon that we've just cooked off in the rash, and we've sort of rendered it down, then we let it chill, and we bring it alive on the grill. Now, what I'm going to do for toasting those buns is we're going to toast them in a bit of bacon fat, because obviously you want to get as much flavour into your burger as possible. And you don't have to use bacon fat for this. You could use butter, you could use rendered beef fat, but at the end of the day, you just want something that's going to give a bit of extra to that bun. Right, so while that fat's rendering, I'll continue the story about the Beefy Boys. So yeah, so we did start doing pop-ups, like sort of locally. Literally, it would be a man and his dog would sort of turn up. And then Christian, who was working for Catch in the Attic, he'd been to Bristol to a festival called Grill Stock, and he said, guys, I've been to this festival, it's amazing. Got about 13,000 people go there. Levi Roots was there. Jamie Oliver had a truck there, and they have a big competition called King of the Grill, where you have to cook your best burgers, your best pulled pork, your best ribs, your best brisket, all that sort of stuff. And so I looked at it, and I looked at the people entering. You had like Bodine's from London. You had some amazing barbecue restaurants and chefs from across the country, people flying over from America and stuff. And the thing about barbecue and burgers is it's often looked down upon, but actually it's a real artisan thing that, you know, people in America spend 20, 30 years training on barbecue before they even consider calling themselves a pitmaster. So I said, this looks amazing, but you know, we've only been doing this sort of food for a couple of months. We don't really know what we're doing. Let's practice for a few years, really hone our skills, and then we could enter something like this. So Dan had a bottle of wine that night, and he just entered us straight away. So before we knew it, we were competing in this competition. Now, we're from Hereford, and Hereford's kind of famous for 3 things. It's famous for Ellie Goulding, the SAS, and it's beef. So we have some of the best beef in the world, the Hereford breed of cow. So we knew our burger had to be amazing. So we spent ages perfecting our burger. We went to a local butcher called Neil Powell. We got some amazing beef just from a few miles down the road. It's the same beef we use today in the restaurants. Amazing bun from a local baker. And we practiced our burger, went to Grill Stock, and we thought, right, we're just going to do a good, honest cheeseburger. And it's going to be the first burger I'm going to show you guys today. So we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to take what we remembered as a kid as a cheeseburger burger and try and reinterpret it with really good ingredients and a really, really good bun. So we're literally talking bun, a bit of special sauce, lettuce, onion, gherkin, cheese, bacon, right? So we sent that up for the competition. Then we saw all the other burgers everyone was sending up, and they had burgers with like a pineapple sticking out of it or with a lobster sticking out of it, and we thought we'd gone way too safe here. But then they announced the winners and we won, which was amazing. So we jumped up and down, we were cheering, we were really excited. And then they said, now we're going to enter you into the World Burger Championships in Las Vegas, which we didn't even know was a thing, right? So we thought, great, fantastic opportunity for, 4 guys in their late 20s. We can have an all expenses trip to Las Vegas. We could get really drunk. We can gamble in some casinos, come last in a burger competition and fly home. So we thought, this is brilliant. So, and turns out it wasn't all expenses paid. We had to get the money to get there. So we set up a Just Giving charity thing, but funnily enough, nobody was really that interested in getting 4 lads in their 20s to Las Vegas. They would rather donate to charity and things like that. So eventually we had an amazing local brewery in Hereford called Wye Valley Brewery. If you don't know, get to know, it's a brilliant brewery. They believed in us. We've done pop-ups there and said, guys, we'll get you out there. Next step was to try and get Herefordshire beef or get British beef into America, because they still won't let it over there because of BSE in the 80s, even though obviously it's some of the best beef in the world. We even spoke to our MP about getting a diplomatic parcel on the plane of Herefordshire beef, but we couldn't make the chill chain work. So we had to, when we got over to Las Vegas, we thought, right, we've got to find some grass-fed, dry-aged Herefordshire beef, right? Because the majority of beef in America is grain-fed and it's wet-aged. So I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but it is in the middle of a desert. And we were there trying to find some grass-fed cows. And it turns out there's only 2 types of grass in Vegas. One is plastic, and the other one you'll get arrested for. So we found a real high-end butcher, and they could get us some amazing dry-aged beef. And this is when we realised how lucky we are to live in Hereford, where we're from, to get enough dry-aged, grass-fed Herefordshire beef, Hereford breed cattle, sorry, beef, to do 12 burgers, cost us $270. And we could have got that for like 10 quid at our local butcher. Anyway, we sent it into the burger, and we came second in the world, which was like mind-blowing. And ever since then is when we got back to England and the whole thing went crazy. Instead of having 5 people turn up to our pop-ups, we'd have literally 500 people turning up. And we're doing a pop-up every week in Hereford where we'd have about 700, 800 people turning up for a burger every Thursday. There'd be a queue for a mile and a half down the road. And we said, Chris, you've got to ring cash in your attic, because I think we need to take this seriously now. So we opened our first restaurant in December 27th, 2015. And like I said, now we've got 5. We've got Hereford, Shrewsbury, Cheltenham, Bath, Oxford, and hopefully we'll have a couple more next year. And last year we were lucky enough to release our cookbook about burgers, which covers everything, and some of the bits I'll show you today. Right, so that's the Beefy Boys and who we are. Right, so just toasting these buns up, right? Now, these are semi-brioche buns, so they're full of butter. And one of the things we train our staff on is making sure when you're toasting your bun, you get it to the point where it becomes lovely and pillowy and soft, right? Because if I show you the difference between a toasted one, right, our buns are actually really tough. If you felt it, you'd think it was stale, even though it was baked this morning. It's because they've got a lot of sort of strength to it as a bun, and you'll see why later when I do the final step of the burger. So we've got a nice bit of toast on there, using bacon fat to give us a little bit of extra sort of flavour. And so, like I said, the first burger we're going to do today is the Beefy Boy. Now, when we came into learning about burgers, we literally thought a cheeseburger was a cheeseburger. But as we've researched into it and we've looked into it, we find that walking into like the Beefy Boys and saying cheeseburger is very much like walking into a bar and just shouting drink at the barman, or walking into a hairdresser's and going haircut. We need more information because there's a whole world of patty styles. So that's what we're going to go through today. So most important thing about a burger, a beef burger anyway, is the meat, right? Second most important thing is the bun, and it's often overlooked. You know, you could have amazing meat, but if you've got a terrible bun, it is going to let the burger down. If you think about it, the bun makes up like 60% of the burger, so you want to make sure you've got a decent one. Right, onto the meat. So the first patty style we're going to do today is the one that historically in the UK, we all recognise as a patty style, and it's what we call a thick patty. Now, this originates more from the east coast of America, so specifically New York, where they are the absolute kings of the thick patty. And over there in New York, it's known as a tavern burger. And where it comes from is you have these steakhouses and burger joints, and they would chop up all their steaks and have all the sort of trim. They put it through the mincer, and they make these nice, fat, juicy burgers. Now, for over here for years, when I was a kid, that was always the sort of burger that we would see. And we'll go into some of the other patty styles later. So here's the meat. We have got In here, it's 50-50 blend. We've got chuck in there and we've got brisket, right? And the reason we're using chuck and brisket is because it's got the right fat content. You don't have to use those cuts. The most important thing is it's got a lot of fat in it, anywhere from 20 to 25%. In fact, for the World Burger Championships, we've actually got the butchers to put a whole ribeye through the mincer before. He really didn't want to do it and he really complained when we did. But it's the World Burger Championships, you want to go to the next level. Can't do that commercially, it'd be like 100 quid a burger. But, you know, for a standard burger, chuck and brisket's absolutely great. Now, back in the 80s, when my mum was making burgers, she'd be cracking an egg in there, she'd be throwing breadcrumbs in there, she'd be grating an onion. And, you know, it was all right, but what was she doing? She was making meatloaf. She wasn't making burgers. Decent burger, all you need is 100% meat, yeah, with a good fat ratio. And another really important thing is the fresher that mince has been put through the grinder, the better. It will make a better burger, right? So we've got a ball here. This is 6 ounces. We're going to go straight onto the grill. We don't need any oil, anything like that, right? Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our spatula. Where did I leave that? I'm forever putting things around. Here we go. Now, I'm going to take this spatula, and on the back of this burger, I'm going to press this patty down to roughly about a centimetre and a half, right? Now, when we first started doing burgers, it was a bit like the Wild West because the EHO hadn't really cottoned onto it. So back then, and we're talking sort of 2013, 2014, it was before that actually, 2013, 2012, you could literally knock up a patty, send it out, it could be medium rare in the middle, and there wasn't really much they would do about it. And then in 2017, they really clamped down on it and they changed the law to make it really difficult to serve burgers less than thoroughly cooked, right? And I mean, you guys are all chefs, so you probably understand this, but for those who don't, because people are always like, well, hang on, how come I can have my like steak rare, but I can't have my burger rare? And the difference is how bacteria goes through red meat compared to white. So on white meat, bacteria can penetrate the whole way through, which is why I have to cook chicken, you know, pretty well to kill any bacteria in there. Red meat can only exist on the outside, which is why you can sear a steak and you can have it blue. But if you think about with a burger, there could be some bacteria on the outside of that meat, and as they put it through the mince, that bacteria gets pushed into the middle, which means you have to cook your burgers to 75°C. Now, for our thick patties in the restaurant, we don't. We like to serve them still blushing, sort of like medium to sort of medium rare, so still pink in the middle. We have to go through loads of safety hoops to do that and to get validation. And in fact, in our cookbook, we've got like 4 pages dedicated to telling people how to do it safely. It is very difficult, and it's a lot of hoops and a lot of stuff to go with it. But generally, if you're going to cook a thick patty, if you don't know what you're doing, or you don't have mince that you're comfortable with to do that, or you haven't researched into it, don't do it. Just cook it to 75. But if you've done a bit of research and you know about it and you follow all the safety procedures, it is safe to cook them below that. So seasoning, right? Another big mistake I see people making with burgers, they'll get their meat and they'll chuck a load of salt in it, a load of pepper, and they'll start mixing it all in. Do not do that, because salt is a curing agent. As soon as you start mixing it into the meat, you're changing the consistency of it. If ever you've had a burger and you've been like, that's a bit tough, it's because they've seasoned the inside of the patty. Treat it like a steak. Only season the outside, and it'll keep the meat inside way more tender. So salt, this is our secret seasoning, but you can use salt and pepper. It's a great place to start. Obviously, because it's a secret, I can't tell you what's in our secret seasoning, but I can tell you we do sell it. And because of the laws in this country, we have to put what's in our secret seasoning on the back of the packet. So if any of you guys actually want to find out what's in our secret seasoning, just buy a pack or just come into one of the restaurants, pick one up and look on the back, and all our secrets will be revealed. Right, so that patty's sort of starting to get a little bit of colour on it. We're going to get our spatula. Super important when you're doing burgers. You do not leave any of that burger on the grill, right? The customer has paid for that burger. They want all of that meat. And also the crust is where the flavour is, that Maillard reaction. So you're going to get spatula underneath, flip it over. Oh my word, look at that crust. That is fantastic. Right, little wiggle. Do not squeeze your burgers. Really annoys you when people are cooking burgers and they start squeezing them with their spatula. Don't do that. You're just making a dry burger. You're squeezing all the juice out. Wiggles. With a thick patty, wiggle it. Realign those sort of fibres, right? So that's going to continue cooking on that side. While it does, we'll start building it. So this is the first burger that we ever came up with. And like I said, it was called the Beefy Boy, because that was our name. And all we were trying to do was make a really good, honest cheeseburger, right? So this sauce that we're going to put on now, nowadays we get this made in huge volumes to our recipe. But back then, it was literally a sauce that was made by us having a few beers, going to the cupboard and being like, right, what's in the cupboard? And we're going to make this sauce. And what was in our cupboard was mayonnaise, French dressing, American mustard, tomato relish, and a bit of garlic. And that's how we made our first ever burger sauce. But if you want to make a classic sort of burger sauce at home, Thousand Island dressing is a great place to start, yeah? Ketchup, mayonnaise, get a bit of mustard in there, a bit of Worcestershire sauce, and build it from there. You can chuck a bit of hot sauce in there, a bit of sriracha or whatever, but those are the fundamental building blocks of most burger sauces, right? Right, my lettuce is wilted. I wouldn't serve this lettuce in the restaurant, but it's been in my car on the way up here, and so it's gone a little bit sort of wilted. But iceberg lettuce is next, shredded. Gets a bad rep, iceberg, but I think for a burger it's great. It's got a bit of crunch, and it's going to survive all those meaty juices falling on it. Okay, next one for the beefy boy is a bit of red onion. Obviously a little bit sort of softer, not quite as sharp as white onion. Also, it's really good for colour, because like, we're always thinking with our burgers, it's got to taste great, but it's got to look great. Because you know what people will do? The first time that burger hits the table, they're all getting their mobile phones out and they're all taking photos of it for Instagram. Okay, right. Hands up. Who likes these? Who likes gherkins? Yeah. Hands up. Who doesn't like gherkins? Yeah, you're fundamentally wrong. But I do get it. Lee, one of the beefy boys, he can't stand gherkins. I really like them. I love the way they cut through. We do have recipes for our own gherkins that we use, but obviously commercially in the restaurant, I mean, we do about 12,000 covers a week now at Beefy Boys, so we can't make them all the time. So we've just got a really good gherkin we use. Okay, we're going to flip this over. Okay, this is going to be ready. We're going to get some of that bacon on the top. And then next thing, controversial in the burger world, right, is cheese. Okay, now trust me, I have tried every single cheese in the world for a burger, and I guarantee you, the best cheese for a burger is this stuff. The absolute worst plastic American cheese you can find. In fact, the worse it is, the better it is for a burger. I know it isn't cheese. I'm not going to put it on a cheese board at Christmas. I'm not going to grate it over some pasta. It's not for that. What it is for is it's for burgers. And the reason why is it's got a real low melting point. It doesn't split, yeah, when you melt it. I can't stand cheddar on a burger. I think it overpowers the beef. Most important thing with the cheese is you're there to complement the beef. So we're going to use two different cheeses on here. We're going to use American for that classic burger sort of flavour. And then we're going to use a bit of this stuff, a bit of Swiss cheese on top. And that's going to give it some nuttiness and a little bit of pull. Right, now what we're going to do, we're going to get our lid. We're going to put it on there with the burger, lid and the cheese. Then we're going to get some water. And this is one of the big tips we picked up from going over to the States and doing loads of visits there, right? Steam your burgers, especially with the bun lid on. So get your water, little bit of steam like that, and cloche down, right? Now, for those of you who can't get your head around American cheese, you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. You know, I'm not going to force you to. It's not like we came second in the world, but we know. But if you want to use cheddar, great way of doing it, and we offer this in a restaurant, is a cheese skirt. It's what they do in Sacramento. So get some grated cheddar. You can use a mixture of cheeses, chuck it onto your hot plate, crisp it up into a nice big disc, then flip it over, right? Give it a couple of seconds to seal because you want it to still be gooey. Then lift that huge disc of like grilled cheese and put that in your burger. Your doctor will only allow you to have about 2 a year, but it is absolutely fantastic, right? So we're going to steam this, and what's going to happen now is there's going to be a little sauna inside here, right? So that steam is going to start melting the cheese, but the other thing it's going to do is going to warm that bun up, right? So the burger's going to become like a real homogeneous thing of like meat, cheese, and a warm bun, right? So look, we should have some nice little drippy sort of bits on there. Cheese is beautifully melted, bun's nice and sort of shiny, right? So there you go. That there is the first burger we ever came up with the first patty style that we ever came up with. So that's a Beefy Boy with a classic New York style thick patty in that one, okay? Right, are they chopping these up? Did you have some? Oh, did you want a plate? Yeah, yeah. Right, we'll send these out. They're gonna chop them up, I think, and send them out. There you go, guys. Right, so next burger I'm gonna show you guys is, next patty style is the smash patty. And I'm sure if any of you have Instagram on your phone, you've probably seen a million smash patty. You can't walk down the street now without having somebody put a smash patty in front of your face. And they've become incredibly popular in the last couple of years. And to be honest, they make up about 70% of the burgers that we sell now. And so I guess the question is, like, it's kind of a new thing for the UK, smash patties. They've probably been around in the UK maybe about 8, 9, 10 years now. And they've become hugely popular. So if you look at a thick patty like that, in my opinion, to do with a good 6-ounce thick burger, it's still got to be a bit pink in the middle, right? If you cook it all the way through, it's going to be dry, it's going to start shrinking, it's not going to be great. Smash patties are cooked all the way through, but they're cooked really, really, really quick. So, so it doesn't matter that they're cooked all the way through, they're still juicy and they're still sort of delicious, and you get that extra sort of maillard direction from having 2 smaller patties as opposed to one big one. So the smash patty originates from a a place called Dairy Cheer in America. And the guy that owned it, he was walking past the kitchen one day and he looked into the kitchen and he saw that the chefs were using a baked bean tin and they had their spatula on top of the burger and they had the baked bean tin on top of that. And obviously, like I said, you know, you're trained, don't squish your burgers. So he walked past, he's like, what are you doing? And they're like, no, this makes the burgers taste better. And he's like, you're mad. And then he tried it and he was like, no, actually, you guys are right. This tastes amazing. And so that became then the blueprint for how they do their burgers at Dairy Cheer. And interestingly, the guy that owns Shake Shack lives in the same town as that place, Dairy Cheer. So Shake Shack kind of not stole it, but they took inspiration from what those guys were doing at Dairy Cheer. So anyway, so the smash patty's sort of taking the world over. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to do our Dirty Boy burger. This is my favourite burger sauce we do, right? It's called Dirty Mayo. So it's mayonnaise, sriracha, Worcestershire sauce. We've got some garlic in there. We've got some American mustard. It's a little bit spicy. It's got a good bit of umami in it. It's really, really delicious. So this is, we're going to do our Dirty Boy burger. There's going to be one element missing because it seems like I've left it back in Hereford, right? So the one element that is missing is our beef dripping onions. So what we do with those, we take some beef dripping, we take some onions, we cook them down for about an hour, put some thyme in there, some brown sugar, a little bit of beef stock, and they make these beautiful sort of jammy onions. So if I hadn't left those in Hereford, I would be spreading those onto the top now, but you'll have to use your imagination. So what we're going to do now, we're going to show you the smashing process for the smashed patties. Now, it's exactly the same blend of meat, and this is one of the things I love about burgers, right, is you can take the same ingredient, which is effectively meat, and you'll see for all the different patty styles we do today, you just treat it ever so slightly differently on the grill with a different technique, and you end up with a completely different burger. So, what we're going to do now is grab our smashed patties here. So, I'll tell you what, we'll do a double just because it looks more impressive, right? So, if you come to our place, you can order your burger ever you want. It's always going to be 6 ounces of meat, right? That could be one thick patty or into sort of little smash balls. So these are both 3 ounces in weight, okay? So we're going to place these onto the grill. Now, what we're going to do for this, we're going to get our burger smashers. Now, you don't have to use one of these. We get these built for us by, we've got a fabricator who lives by us and he makes these sort of for us. And these are designed to smash 2 burgers at once. If you imagine on a busy sort of Saturday, you can buy things like this online. You can use the back of a spatula, whatever. So the technique, you'll see some people, they'll put grease proof on it and then they'll smash it. That's because they're not very good at their job. So what you need to do is you need to get your smasher, you're going to put it down, you're going to wiggle, 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 and then you'll feel a point where the meat will stick to the grill, okay? And when you can feel it biting, it's when you slide off, yeah? You don't want to be on a busy sort of Saturday and you've got, 16 burgers along the grill, mucking around with little bits of grease-proof paper. It's a nightmare, and it's incredibly bad for the environment. Right, so we're going to take this down on there, wiggle it all the way down, and we're going to rock it back and forth, and we're going to slide off, okay? Like that. And what that is doing, that's making the most amount of contact on that grill. When we started doing our research for burgers, we tried every single way you can imagine to cook a burger, from smoking them to grilling them to doing over charcoal. And most of the burgers that we'd had before in the UK had always been, grilled on a grill over a flame, and you will get a good burger like that, but it won't be as good or as juicy or have as much flavour, in my opinion, as cooking it on a hot plate. So again, secret seasoning, only going to season the one side of this burger. Because obviously it's 2 patties, you'd be doubling up the seasoning, right? And then we're going to get 4 slices of our American cheese. It's always handy if you unwrap these before the demo. Excuse my teeth on there, sorry. Right, and so we're going to get 4 slices of this on there. And like I said, if you really, you don't want American cheese, you don't want cheddar, you don't want anything like that, pepper jack is a really, really good cheese for a burger. It's for those who don't like American, it'll tick that box, but it's still got that sort of burgery sort of flavour to it. Right. Okay. And also, so we've done our first cookbook, we've got a second one coming out next year, and we've been working on that, trying to give everybody a recipe for if you want to make American cheese at home, how can you do it? So basically, it's an ingredient called sodium citrate. And if you use that, you can turn any cheese at all into American cheese, and you can get really exciting with the different sort of flavours you can do. So right, we're going to come over here, get underneath those smashed patties, flipping them over, making sure we don't leave any crust whatsoever on that grill. Beautiful. Then we're going to layer up our cheese on the burger. So 1, okay, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to go with some bacon on this as well. There we go. Now, despite its simplicity of just being like bacon, cheese, a bit of sauce and some dirty onions, this has become one of our biggest sellers. And it's because I think people sometimes just want a bit of a simple cheeseburger. We do loads of crazy ones at the restaurant. We do like pizza burgers, like a macaroni burger, all sorts of different mad ones. But actually, personally, my favourite burgers are the more simple ones. I just think it allows the meat to sort of shine. And if you've got really, really good quality meat and a good quality bun, you don't necessarily need to chuck all that stuff on it. But you'll always get people who want to come in and they want a burger like this or a burger like that and a big sort of crazy one. Okay, so we're going to give that a little steam. Again, lid comes off. Oof. And we're going to stack this up. Oh man, this is going to look great. Right. So, I mean, look at that. I mean, you just know it's going to be good, don't you? So, right, we're going to chuck that on there. So that's our dirty boy. Like I said, the only other addition would be if you're going to do that is to add those beef dripping onions to it, but that'll still be absolutely delicious. So let me pass that over to you guys. Oh, do you want to get a quick shot? Oh yeah, here you go. So that's our double smash patty dirty boy, that one. Right, I'm dripping juice everywhere. There you go. Okay, right, thank you. So this next patty style, well, it's more of a sort of like a patty modification. This actually got involved in a lawsuit, this one. So when we were writing the cookbook, like I said, in the restaurant, we've always tried to offer like different sort of patty styles, which are kind of regional to America. So have any of you guys ever been to California? Yeah, did you ever go to In-N-Out Burger? Yes, amazing sort of chain in California. Now, they only exist on the west coast of America because very much like us, they won't freeze their buns, they won't freeze their meat. Everything's got to be within traveling distance of like their main sort of supply networks, so they don't have to freeze things overnight. So that's why they only exist on the west coast. Now, they opened in 1947, same year as McDonald's. And they become sod of had a bit of a cult following, especially on the west coast of America, right? Now, they have a secret menu. And one of the items on the secret menu that you can ask for is you can ask for your burger to be done animal style. Now, where it originates from was in the 60s in California. They used to have these hippies that would be surfing all day. You can imagine them with their big beards and their sort of dreadlocks. They would be surfing all day. They would come in and they would go to In-N-Out Burger and order their burger a very specific way, right? Now, you know what chefs are like. They're a very cheery bunch. And you can imagine those guys on the grill, they're working all day in the California sun. They're looking at, seeing these sort of hippies coming in who don't work, don't do anything, all in their burgers, and they used to wind them up. So they used to call them animals. So eventually, after a few years, the way that these hippies were ordering their burger became known as animal style, right? And so what they mean by that at In-N-Out Burger, they mean that they've got extra spread, which is their burger sauce, grilled onions, but also the patty is going to be mustard fried. Okay, so we used to do this at the restaurant. And then when we came to write the cookbook, we had a whole section about animal style in there. And then the publisher spoke to us and said, well, look, listen, guys, if you put this in the book, you're going to get sued because it's a trademark. And I was like, well, what are a company in California going to care about some 4 guys in Hereford cooking burgers, you know, in their back garden? Why would they care? So, but they convinced me to change it, which I did. I changed it to Cali style in the book. But still in the restaurants, we have big things on the wall saying animal style and all that. And then about a month after the book came out, we got a cease and desist from In-N-Out. But they were very lovely about it. We've changed all the signage. And then what we're now going to do, we're going to actually put all the legal correspondence up in the toilets when you come into the restaurant, so you can read through the story in sort of real time. But that might provoke them to try and sue us again, but who knows. Right, so this one is going to be our pastrami boy, and we're going to do it animal style. So for this, we're using little chopped white onions. Depending on the burger, we'll go in between red onions, either sliced, rings, or chopped. It all depends on what works best for that burger. So we're going to go a little bit of iceberg lettuce on top of that. Let me just find my iceberg lettuce back here. And then we're going to go gherkins again on this, just because they work great on every single burger. Here we go. And then the real star of this burger is our pastrami. So we cure and we smoke our own pastrami at the Beefy Boys. So we take beef brisket, we cure it in sort of nitrates, salt. We cure it for about 2 weeks, and we smoke it for about 4 hours over wood, which is from a sustainable woods in Herefordshire. And then what we do is we smoke it for about 4 hours, then we steam it for about 8 hours until it hits 96°, so all that fat's fully rendered. So this is like proper, you know, pastrami. I mean, look at that, that fat will be incredible on that. This would be like if you went to like Cat's Deli in New York or something, it'd be very, very similar to what they're serving there. So it's not like that rubbish pastrami you get from the supermarkets. So what we're going to do, we're going to chuck this pastrami on. just to sort of like start caramelizing it and sort of heating it back up. So that's going to go onto the back of the grill. Now, we're going to get our cheese set up ready. And then what we're going to do, we'll do a single for this, which should be 2. And then we'll show you how to do it sort of animal style. So let me just get the cheese on here. We're going to let that pastrami just start sort of cooking. Also, we rub it in like black pepper and coriander seeds as well, right? So let's get 2 smashed patties on here. These are going to go onto the grill. Okay. Then again, we're going to get our smashers. We're going to smash these patties all the way down. Lovely, right. Okay. Then we're going to get our seasoning over the top, right? So season up your patties, and then you want to get your American mustard, right? Now you could do this with English mustard, but the classic way of doing it is obviously American mustard, very different to English mustard. I love English mustard, but obviously that's fiery, very savoury. American mustard, not fiery at all, more vinegary, more sort of sweet. But what it does have, it has that classic sort of cheeseburger, hot dog sort of taste, which sometimes is quite good to remind somebody of when they're having a burger. Because I think, for us anyway, what we've always tried to make our burgers look a little bit like a BBC prop burger. We wanted them to always look a bit silly, a bit like, wow, that's like a burger that's been turned up a little bit. The sort of burger that you would imagine having when you were a kid. And I think for a lot of us as well, especially, I mean, we're all in our sort of late 30s, early 40s now. And our first memories of a burger are McDonald's. So what we're trying to do, in a way, is trying to do, you know, in Ratatouille, when he eats the ratatouille and he flashes back to being a kid, that's kind of what we want people to do, but do it with really good ingredients and really take care of what we're cooking. So we put a little bit of mustard on the back of the patty. Now we're going to get underneath again, get all that crust up, flip it over. Now the smash style I've been showing you guys today is like your regular smash, but now there's a whole sort of world of other smash styles which are coming out. One of the most popular ones at the moment is the lacy edge patty, where you smash it with a different motion and a round smasher. So you go the whole way down like that. And what that does is that spreads it out even further and it gives it lacy edges, which get really, really, really crispy. And they're all just sort of variations on a similar technique. So we're going to get our cheese on each one and then steam these up, again with a little bit of water. You can also, if you want, you could use beer, you could use beef stock. I've tried it, generally it'll make no difference to what it tastes like at the end, but you do look pretty cool if you're firing some beer or ladling some stock on there as well. So right, we're just gonna give this a quick little steam. Right, and we're gonna stack this up. Now in the burger game, we always say there's like different types of burgers. You get your first date burger. I think something like the Beefy Boy earlier, nice kind of dainty, quite easy to eat. And then you get your, what this is called, which I would say this is like a 7 years of marriage burger. So this is like, you know, loads of meat, cheese dripping off it. If you eat it, you're gonna get covered. But at that point, you don't care what your partner thinks anymore. So we're gonna chuck that one on there. So there we go. That's animal style pastrami boy with our like house cured pastrami. So I'm gonna take this over to you guys now. There you go. Thank you. Right, now this last one is my favorite patty style in the world. So I think it's the king of cheeseburgers. It's the burger that we actually sent up in the 2023 National Burger Awards, and we won those. We also submitted this burger to the World Burger Championships in Indianapolis in 2024, and we came 4th in the world. We didn't win, sadly, but we did beat the French, so that was good. So yeah, so it's an exercise in simplicity, this one. And but to understand where this burger comes from, you've got to understand its origins and sort of thinking behind it. So this is, we're going to do the Oklahoma onion burger, right? Now, smash patties are everywhere at the moment. I'm really surprised that this one hasn't become the viral one that it might do yet. There's still time for it to take over the smash patty and dethrone it. So this burger, the Oklahoma onion burger, originates, funnily enough, from Oklahoma, and in the 1930s, right? So to understand this burger, you really need to understand the economic climate that it was born out of, right? So we've got to picture a little bit of 1930s America, yeah? So 1930s America, you know, try to imagine a world like this, right? 1930s America, seems like fascism's on the rise. You know, inflation is going through the roof. The American government have started doing crazy things like putting tariffs on all their imports. Try and imagine what a world like that would be like. I know it'd be really hard, but just try and think what it would be like. So anyway, from all that sort of economic madness, they basically caused the Great Depression. So as the tariffs came in, they had a huge depression in America, living standards went down, food costs massively went up, right? So you got these guys in a restaurant called, it's a restaurant in Oklahoma. If I remember the name, I will say. But yeah, so it's a restaurant in Oklahoma that was doing burgers. And they said, look, meat's getting really, really expensive. We don't want to make our burgers smaller. What do we do to combat the fact of the rising cost of meat? And then one of the chefs had a really, really ingenious idea. And from that bit of thriftiness that he came up with, to me, made the best burger of all time. So basically what he did is he took a really, really expensive ingredient, which is meat, and he made the decision to combine it with something really, really cheap, right? And what he was thinking about was this stuff, okay? Really, really thinly sliced white onions. And I'm talking about a millimetre thin. You've got to be able to see through them, otherwise it won't work. So get the mandolin out, get your food processor out or whatever. And from the combination of those two things, because you think about every amazing dish you've ever had in your life, generally it starts with meat and onions, yeah? It's like the bedrock of cooking. That is all contained within this burger. And it's super simple. We're not going to put a sauce in there, anything else. It's going to be cheese, meat, and onions. But it's the cooking technique and the combination of those, which for me just makes it the best burger in the world. So what we're going to do, we're going to get some gloves on, and we're going to place our meat onto the grill. For this, we'll do 4 patties. If we're handing this round, be warned, the onions in this will make it absolutely red hot. When I was working at the restaurant, what I would do, I literally make this for my staff food. I would make it, put it on the side, clean my entire grill, pull the fridges out, clean all those, date label everything, clean my entire section, come back to it about half hour later, and it was still burn my mouth. So be very, very careful, because the onions do mean it retains the heat, right? So we're going to go 4 patties for this. Then we're going to get some really, really thinly sliced white onions, right? And place them on top. And you need to put way too many onions on, way more than what you would think, because they will cook down, they will shrink up, okay? So pile your onions on top of the patty, making sure you don't cross-contaminate and touch the raw meat as you do it, okay? Now, it's a different smashing technique for this. You don't want to slide off. If you slide off, you're going to slide all the onions off. So you want to smash down, okay? So we're going to press down and really smash those onions into that patty, okay? Then we're going to get our not so secret anymore seasoning, and we're going to go over the top, just like that. Now, if you went back to Oklahoma in the 1930s and you ordered your burger, that is exactly how it would be cooked, right? Onions, meat on top. Now, when we were experimenting in the kitchen, we were thinking, hang on, what if we took a bit of what they're doing in Oklahoma and we combined it with what they're doing on the West Coast? And for us, this is what took this burger to the next level. And whenever we did it at National Burger Awards, World Burger Championships, this is the extra little trick that we add to it. So we're going to get some American mustard, just some lines on the back. Now what's going to happen when we flip this, well, as you can see, steam's coming off it, right? So that steam is coming up through those onions, and those onions are so thin that it's starting to cook those onions. So we're starting the cooking process already. So what's happening is you're getting that onion juice mixing with sort of meat juice, and then what's going to happen now is we're going to flip it. Now as we flip it, that onion, that mustard, and that meat is all going to start caramelizing together. And the mustard won't burn or anything. It'll just sort of like cook into those onions. Now, what you want with this burger is you want to give it time now on the grill. Because if you think about onions, right, you cook onions 10 different ways, you will end up with 10 completely different flavors or textures or flavors, right? Onions are crazy versatile. And what you want with this burger is you want some onions that are burnt, like black, literally. So they've got that sort of bitter note to them. You want some that have like not burnt or charred, and they've still got maybe a little bit of bite to them, but they've got a bit of the mustard on it, so you get that sort of texture. You want some that have become lovely and brown and sweet and sort of caramelized. And it's for that reason that you've got all those different textures and sort of flavors that you don't need to worry about putting any sauce or anything with it, right? So we're going to get our cheese, and we're going to layer this up. We're going to let those onions keep going for a little bit. And we're going to stack it up as a 4. And then we're going to give it a good sort of steam. Right, so this is going to be my sort of last burger today. Have I got time for questions after we're doing questions? Yeah. Cool. So after this, well, we can kind of do questions now if you want, because we've kind of got to wait that. So has anybody got any questions? Ideally burger related. If they're not burger related, you will be massively disappointed with the answer that you will be getting.
So you said earlier about people asking for ridiculously big burgers.
Yeah.
I've got a thing about ridiculously big burgers. It annoys me. Burger to bun ratio. If you're going to give me a big burger, give me a big bun to match it. Do you do bigger buns for bigger burgers, or do you just go higher and higher?
Yeah, I see that, because obviously that's a meme on the internet, so I get it, I do get it. But obviously you still, because you build a burger that way, you've got to get it in your mouth. But the same thing, if you're going wider with the bun, you've still got exactly the same sort of problem, but on the other axis, do you know what I mean? Because it's like, you've got to get that big bun. Also, it'd be an absolute nightmare for any burger operator to be like, right, somebody wants a medium-sized burger, we've got this bun. They want a bigger one, so we've got this bun. And so no one's going to do that, because inevitably you're going to have bread going off and going stale. So everyone's always stuck with the same bun. But then you will get people coming in who want, right, I want a quadruple burger. So the only thing you can do is go high. So yeah, I think for me, a double's fine. I can eat so basically like this is going to be 4 patties. I find that's the sort of like mark where that's as big as you can realistically go without it being a knife and fork job. And I think after that, but at the end of the day, the customer will order it how they want, and we'll get those 5 patties. Like, you ain't gonna be able to eat this. It's gonna be a right mess. But you got to deliver what they want. Hopefully that answered the question. Any other questions?
If you haven't tried it yet, you've got to try it. I mean, we were sat on this table just here jonesing for a burger just to come over, and I think Corey, who was sat behind me, said, "Oh my God, I think I might need to drive to Hereford to eat one of these burgers."
I'll do it. Yeah. Well, the closest one to here would be
absolutely delicious.
There you go. So that's the Oklahoma onion burger there. No sauce, anything, meat, onion, cheese, and a bit of sort of animal style.
Can I ask a question, Murph? I mean, you're clearly exacting, over standards. As you've grown, is that challenging to maintain those standards?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like the hardest thing to do. For the first 5 years of the Beefy Boys, it was one kitchen, one restaurant in Hereford. The 4 Beefy Boys, we would generally, any day of the week, one of us would be in there, cooking. So you could make sure things were done as you wanted. You could make sure the quality was there. And I think that's one of the hardest things about expanding, is making sure that the chefs, and especially the head chefs that you have in your different sites, have that same care and attention. Because literally the difference between like best burger you've ever had in your life and something that's a bit sort of dry or that is literally like 30 seconds too long on the grill. So the most important thing for me is just making sure, the most important thing for me is just making sure that the chefs you do have in care. Like we've had fine dining chefs come and work with us, and literally they're in the weeds in sort of 10 minutes, or like they don't care, they're not passionate enough about it. I would rather take somebody who's never had any kitchen experience but really cares about the food they're making, because you can work with that. If you get someone who's indifferent to it, you can never trust them when your back's turned. So yeah, consistency and making sure you've got people who care, I think that's the hardest thing.
And then right now, like maintaining those exacting standards with the challenges that everyone is facing in any kind of hospitality.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the good thing these days, I'd say, is like back in the old days, mystery shoppers, all things like that. But the great thing about, I know like reviews and sort of TripAdvisor, OpenTable, Google, sometimes can be a bit like frustrating. But the amazing thing is that you get that instant feedback. I mean, we set all sites at 4.7 out of 5 is like the minimum, so, and they all achieve that. And in fact, some of them achieve more. But the great thing is that because you get that instant feedback from customers, you can be sat on the other side of the curtain and see, hang on, or something happened in that kitchen last night because we've got all these complaints coming in today. So that allows us to do that. The good thing is there's 4 of us as well, so we can all get around, and we've got like area chef, ops manager. So there's always somebody sort of lurking around to keep an eye on it all.
And how are you finding it now, like in terms of customers, footfall, maintaining in these tricky times?
Yeah, I mean, touch wood, we're good. So we're 10% up like for like, and so probably about 7% of that is price increase, but then within that is real actual growth.
Right.
And the weird thing we're seeing at the moment is weekdays, Monday to Thursday, dinner times is down on previous year. Evenings are roughly about the same. Friday, Saturday and Sunday is like busier than ever. And we've had some record-breaking weeks. And I think what that says to me is that you've got a public who are worried about spending too much and might not go out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and have that midweek treat, but they will still go out on the weekend. So I think that's why we're seeing weekends being busier than ever, but the weekdays not, because I think people you don't feel as bad going to a restaurant on a weekend as you might on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that's
And they also want to spend that money where a standard is guaranteed and they kind of know what they're getting.
Yes, so that's one of the most important things, I think, is making sure that you maintain that quality. So if people are feeling the pinch and they're only going to maybe go out for 2 meals that month or 1 meal that month or maybe 1 meal in 6 months, they're going to go to you because they know it's going to be good and they're not going to be let down.
Yeah, great. That's awesome, great.
Thank you for having me, guys, and thank you for listening.